7 mental laws. The law of control. Now, the law of control says that you feel positive about yourself to the degree to which you feel you are in control of your own life. And you feel negative about yourself to the degree to which you feel you are not in control of your own life. You feel you are controlled by your bills, by your bosses, by your health, by your debts, by your family, by your obligations. When you feel that you're not in control or out of control, you feel highly stressed. The internal locus of control is where you feel that you're in charge of your own life. You make your own decisions. A person with an internal locus of control says, I make my own decisions. I am where I am and what I am because of myself. I'm in charge of my life. A person with an external locus of control feels that other people are in charge of their life, their boss, their bills, and so on. The people with a high internal locus of control feel really, really good about themselves. They feel powerful, they feel empowered, they feel strong. So control begins with your thoughts, and your thoughts determine your feelings, and your feelings then determine your actions. Your thoughts are the guidance mechanism of your life. So control your thoughts. And when you control your thoughts determine your feelings. By the way, great question, which comes first, thoughts or feelings? And the answer is always thought. And I'll tell you why. It's because it is the thought that creates the feeling. It's how you think about something that is happening in your life that triggers the emotion. At the University of Pennsylvania, they did 22 years of study, and they came up with a concept called explanatory style. Well, explanatory style says that the way you explain things to yourself largely determines your emotions, largely determines your thoughts, your reactions, your responses, largely determines the total quality of your life, how you explain things to yourself. And so if you explain things in a positive and constructive way, then what happens is you respond positively and constructively, you feel differently, you take different actions, and you get different results. Now, the next law is the law of accident. And the law of accident is actually a metaphysical concept. The law of accident says that everything just happens by accident. We have in our society an enormous number of people who are led to believe that they are victims, that there's nothing they can do about their situation. And you read all this stuff in the paper all the time by, unfortunately, ill-informed people who say, you know, there's great powers out there that are holding down the working person and so on. This is all nonsense. It's all sort of fantastical things like believing in life on the other side of the moon. But nonetheless, they convince themselves of that, and they feel that there's nothing you can do. The greatest enemy of human success is passivity, is people feel passive, feel helpless. It's called in psychology learned helplessness. They feel helpless. They feel there's nothing I can do. My debts are too high. The economy is too bad. Life is terrible. And so the law of accident, as you see, is completely opposed to the law of control. We say failing to plan is planning to fail. Failing to plan is planning to fail. So if you don't have a very clear, specific, written plan with goals and actions and priorities that you're working on every day, well, then your life will just drift around in a circle. You know, they say a ship without a rudder will just drift completely, but a ship with a rudder and a compass will go straight and true to its destination through any type of sea. And once we have a very clear rudder and compass, then suddenly we start to make incredible progress at a faster rate than you can imagine. So, number 3, the law of cause and effect. Now, this was the granddaddy law that really changed my life. The law of cause and effect says that for every effect in your life, there's a specific cause. Now, this law is completely opposed to the law of accident and completely consistent with the law of control. It means that everything that happens to us for a reason. Even if we don't know the reason, it happens to us for a reason. We say that success is not an accident. Failure is not an accident. They all have specific causes. And here's the great rule. If you want to double your income or anything else, what you do is you realize that everybody who is earning twice as much as you today was at one time earning half as much as you. It's the way it works. Nobody was born earning twice as much. They started off at the bottom at a very low wage job. So then they did certain things differently from you, and now they're earning twice as much or 5 times as much or 10 times as much. Well, then what we do is go back and find out what they did, and we do the same thing. And we say success leaves tracks. Is if you find out what other successful people did, and you do the same thing, you'll eventually get the same results that they do. And if you don't, you won't. And here's the most amazing thing with regard to these laws. These are mental laws. A physical law you can see, like gravity. You can drop something and you can see. You can see the results of a physical law. Mental laws, you can only see the results over time. But physical laws are just as fixed as mental laws, and mental laws work 100% of the time. They say that in all of human history, man has never invented a law. You know, we talk about all the laws of physics and mathematics and mechanics and velocity and the laws of Einstein and so on. Nobody's ever invented a law. We've only discovered the laws that already existed. My point is that these laws are neutral. They work for you or they work against you. And so we say that nature is neutral. Nature is like justice. Nature is blind. Nature doesn't say you'll be a big success and your life is going to suck and you're going to be in between. Nature doesn't care. Now, this was a great breakthrough for me. Nature doesn't care. Nature says that if you do what other successful people do, you get the same result. And if you don't, you don't. And nature's not involved in it. Nature just says, here's the laws, here's the playing field, here's the rules of the game. If you play the game well, you have a great life. And if you don't, you don't. But there's nothing out there that is determining what happens to us. It's all in here. And in life, we violate a lot of laws. We violate a lot of natural laws, especially mental laws. And when we violate those laws, we suffer the consequences of it, whether we knew about the laws or not. If you step off a 10-story building in downtown San Diego, you're going to go splat on the sidewalk. And it doesn't matter whether you knew about the law of gravity, or whether you approved of the law of gravity, or whether anybody had explained the law of gravity to you. The law of gravity is going to work on you, and you're going to go splat on the sidewalk. The law is neutral. The law doesn't care. You know, thou shalt go splat, and thou shalt rise up, and thou shalt go half splat. No. In other words, the law is there. It is the iron law of the universe. All other laws in the universe, I call it the umbrella law, all other laws, mathematics, physics, mechanics, all fall under the law of cause and effect. Aristotle proposed this in 350 BC, and it was called the Aristotelian principle of causality, which was a great shock to a world that believed in gods and coincidences and lightning strikes and Mount Zeus on Mount Olympus. What they said was, no, everything happens for a reason. And if we're not happy with what's happening, we can change the causes. If a person's overweight, people say, well, I'm overweight, it's because of my glands. Yes, sir, it's your mouth gland, and it's malfunctioning several times a day. You know, we know how to be healthy and fit and how to live a long time. We know how to make all the money that we want because there are hundreds of thousands of millions of people who have. So if you want to be a millionaire, then you can be a millionaire. Just do what other people who started with nothing did to become a millionaire. See, the most important application of this law is that thoughts are causes and conditions are effects. Your thoughts are what are called the primum movum, the primary moving force of your life. Your thoughts create the conditions of your life. It's very much as though you had one of the old slide projectors, and you put in a slide, it projects on the screen. Your thoughts project on the screen of your life. Now, many people think, well, I don't like what I'm seeing on the screen of my life, so I'm going to beat up the projector, or I'm going to beat up the screen, cut up the screen. No, what you do is you start to change the picture you have in your mind. All improvement in your outer life begins with an improvement in your mental pictures. Begins with an improvement in your mental pictures by constantly starting to see yourself and your world in more positive terms. So another mental law, the law of belief. Now, this is a biggie. This is really the biggie. This is the foundation principle, by the way, of all religions and all philosophies and all success is the law of belief. It says that whatever you believe with feeling becomes your reality. Whatever you believe with feeling, with emotion, with intensity, it becomes your reality because you always act on the basis of your beliefs. And the more intensely you hold the belief, the more the belief becomes true for you. Many people have beliefs, and there's two sets of beliefs. There's conscious beliefs that we have, and there's unconscious beliefs. And there's that wonderful line from Josh Billings, the humorist. He said, it ain't what a man knows what hurts him, it's what he knows what ain't true. And many things we know about ourselves ain't true at all. What we do is we develop scotomas or blind spots. Is once we've decided to believe a certain thing, we do not see anything that contradicts it. We may be doing wonderful things or wonderful work or being very successful. We don't even see that if we decided to believe that we will never make much more than we're making. Sometimes your parents will tell you, you've got to be worried about money, you've got to be careful about money all your life, and you'll never make very much, so you've got to hold on to every penny. And so people just hunker down, and they're more concerned about security than anything else. And so we develop these beliefs, these blind spots. And sometimes you need somebody to come along and open it up. And so you can see this vast world of possibilities that you have. And when this happens, people change completely. So your biggest obstacle is usually self-limiting beliefs. Your biggest obstacle is usually self-limiting beliefs. So what are your self-limiting beliefs? What are the most common ones? Well, the most common ones are internally, I'm not smart enough, I'm not as smart as other people, or I'm not talented enough, or I'm not creative enough, or I'm not something enough. It's just the most amazing damn thing. When you reach the point where you cannot even imagine not achieving great goals, your whole life changes for you. So the next meta law is the law of expectations. Now this is a great law. There's libraries full of books. There are psychologists who worked for years on this. Dr. Robert Rosenthal of Harvard worked on this for years, and he found that your expectations, especially about your outcomes, become your own self-fulfilling prophecies. What does that mean? Is if you expect something to happen, it usually happens. It becomes your own prophecy. Because if you expect it to happen, you'll act consistent with it happening. Now, the wonderful thing about our expectations is that you can manufacture your own. You can manufacture your own. You can expect great things to happen. So whatever you expect with confidence becomes your own self-fulfilling prophecy. But the greatest of all attitudes, the catalyst that causes your potential to unlock, almost like a chemical catalyst that causes an explosive effect, is confident expectations. An attitude of confident expectations transforms your attitude towards your world. If you confidently expect that people will buy, and confidently expect that products will sell, and confidently expect that if everything fails, you'll learn a valuable lesson that you'll use to be more successful next time, if you always expect something good, you'll never be disappointed. And it has a total transforming effect on your attitude. So expectations play a critical role in your life. There's 4 types of expectations. First are the expectations of your parents. And so many parents have made the mistake of criticizing their children too much when they were growing up, and their children develop a feeling that they're not really very good. And so they set low standards for themselves and achieve them. The worst of all, they say, is to set low standards for yourself and be successful. So the expectations of your parents have an inordinate impact on the person you become as an adult. And so you have to look back and realize that many parents were raised by parents with negative expectations. And in the Bible it says the sins of the fathers are visited on the children. So what your parents, grandparents did to them, they will often have inflicted on you, and you'll often grow up not really feeling that you have great potential. Your parents will have expressed the thought that they didn't really expect you to do that well. You get poor grades, well, what can you expect? You're not that smart. And you're never on time. And you never fulfill your promises. And you probably won't do that well in life. And isn't it amazing the power of negative expectations expressed by our parents when we were young, the power that that has on us as an adult. It's sort of like a sea anchor that's pulling us back. And we're struggling hard on the outside to be successful, but deep down inside, we are still fighting with those negative expectations. The other place is the expectations of your boss. You'll find that people who work under high expectations bosses who really have confidence in their staff, perform at a vastly higher level. Now, here's one of the great rules in life, which we'll come back to over and over, is that people don't change. I get this question, how can I get my wife to change, my husband to change, my boss to change, my friend to change? People don't change. In fact, the psychological studies show that people under pressure become even more so, but they don't change. And people say, well, how come you're giving a seminar if you say that people can't change? Most people don't want to change. They've taken their whole lives to become the person they are, and they don't really have any desire to change. As a matter of fact, most people feel that to some degree they are superior to all other human beings. And so therefore, why would they change if they're already superior? And if somebody thinks that they should change, well, they're definitely superior to that person. Because that person is obviously an inferior person if they would even suggest that someone as good as me change. And so the expectations of your boss, and the rule is, if you're working with a negative expectations boss, go somewhere else. Because he or she will never change, and you'll never fulfill your potential under a negative expectations boss. Another is the expectations you have of others. The expectations you have of your children and your spouse, you'll find that in great relationships, each spouse expects the other to do really well and to be really successful and be really happy. The expectations you have of your children, all the time they're growing up, the expectations you have of your staff. So expectations are really, really good. People tend to rise to the expectations imposed on them by others or fall to the expectations. So always express positive expectations, even if in your heart you have a lot of doubts. Always be positive on the outside. The expectations you have of yourself. Now, these are the expectations that can override all other expectations in your life. There are people who've come from negative backgrounds and child raisings. They've been in negative marriages with complaining spouses. They've had difficult people around them, but their expectations for themselves never wavered. A friend of mine named Peter Daniels, who started off working on the streets, became very wealthy, he's very successful in Australia, did a lifelong project, and he studied the lives of 500 men and women who became successful. He read their biographies and autobiographies and encyclopedia and Wikipedia and so on, looking for the common denominator of success. And what he found was this. He found that he read about 300 autobiographies, and he finally found the common thread. The common thread was every one of those people always believed in themselves. They always believed that they were going to be a big success in life. They always expected to do well. Here's an interesting exercise. Imagine that you could go down to the computer store and you could buy a mental program and you could put it into your mental computer, and it would then become part of your continuing operating system. If you could buy any belief at all to put into your mental system, what would be the best belief for you to buy? And the answer is the belief that you are going to be a big success in life. That no matter what happens, everything is going to conspire together to make you a great success. And if you absolutely believe that and absolutely expect that everything is going to help you, that will become your reality. The reason why we do not achieve greatly is we hold ourselves back by our own beliefs. We wonder if it's possible. We over-exaggerate negative events. We catastrophize, and we blow them out of proportion as opposed to looking at them and seeing them as just ideas, stepping stones to success. So we say, always expect the best. And remember that your expectations are totally under your own control. Repeat throughout the day these words. I believe that something wonderful is going to happen to me today. Now say that to yourself. Say it quietly to yourself. I believe that something wonderful is going to happen to me today. Now, every single morning when you get up and say that, something wonderful is going to happen to you that day. It's the most amazing damn thing. You go into a restaurant and you say, I believe something wonderful is going to happen in this restaurant. I believe something wonderful is going to happen to me today. And it's the most astonishing thing. If you forget to say it, your life will be okay. But if you remember to say it with confidence, you set up a force field of positive expectations and something wonderful happens to you. Okay, the next mental law is the law of attraction. The law of attraction says that you are a living magnet and you attract into your life the people and the circumstances that are in harmony with your dominant thoughts. You're a magnet, and whatever is in harmony, the people, circumstances, ideas, money, resources that are in harmony with your thoughts, you start to attract into your life. In the universe, all energy is in a state of vibration, including mind energy. Now, your mental energy, mental energy travels at the speed of light. It travels, and it's so fine that it goes through any substance. You can think a thought here, and it can connect with someone on the other side of the world. You'll have occasions throughout your life where you'll think of a person, the phone will ring. It'll be them. Or you'll think of doing something, and you open the newspaper, and there's an article on the exact same subject. So your mind is incredibly powerful, but it is a neutral law. If you think negative thoughts, you'll attract negative things into your life as well. So thoughts vibrate outwardly from you. And the more emotion attached to a thought, the greater is the intensity of the vibration. The more emotion you have. If you think about, what you're going to have for lunch, it has very little vibrational effect. But if you think about someone you love, or a goal that you want to achieve, or something you want to accomplish, or even something you're afraid of, it has a tremendous emotional effect. It's like turning up the emotional power. Now, here's an important point that people don't realize. This also explains what is called the law of repulsion. Now, the law of repulsion says that if you hold a negative thought, you repel anything associated with that thought out of your life. So many people are brought up to look down on those who are successful, to criticize successful people. This is fatal, because if you criticize successful people, even in your heart, it drives success out of your life. It guarantees that you'll never accomplish anything with your life. You'll always be miserable and unsuccessful. If you criticize wealthy people, they'll never be wealthy. And so therefore, it's so important for you to admire people who are enjoying the success that you desire. Is to admire them and look up to them, and don't look for chinks in their armor or flaws in their life or behavior. Instead, look at the things that they do right and say, that I could do that. Read their books, read stories about them, and admire successful, happy people. If you admire successful, happy people, you create this sympathetic resonance, and you begin to attract into your life people and circumstances and ideas that will enable you to be like one of those people. When people criticize other successful people, it has no effect on the successful people. It doesn't hurt them at all. They don't even know, and they don't care. But it destroys the criticizer's chances for success. One of the characteristics of poor people is they look down on rich people. Now, what is the chance of them ever having any success in life? In the zero range? It's probably nothing. They'll never be successful, and they'll never understand that their own mentality is what drives out all possibility of success from their lives. So always admire success, and always want for others what you want for yourself. If you want to be a big success and you see somebody successful, say, that's great, congratulations, that's wonderful. Because if you can get it, I can get it. Abraham Lincoln once said that some are rich as proof that others can be rich as well. And so what we do is we look up to successful people. Now, the law of correspondence, this is my favorite, I love this law, says, as within, so without. And this brings us to my favorite ratio. And my favorite ratio is this, the 1-to-1 ratio. And basically what it says is what is going on your outer world corresponds to what is going on in your inner world. As within, so without. One of the greatest of all spiritual principles. What's going on inside corresponds on the outside. We say your outer world is a mirror that reflects what is going on in your inner world. We say wherever you look, there you are. What you see is your own self, your own thoughts reflected back to you. And the places that you see this, most of all, you see it in your relationships. Is the person you are on the inside is perfectly reflected by your relationships. You see it in your financial situation. Your depths of preparation and work and attitude toward money is reflected in your financial world. You see it in your health. Your attitudes toward health, fitness, food, everything else is reflected in your physical body and so on. Always on the outside. The great requirement of life is for you to create within yourself the mental equivalent of what you wish to enjoy on the outside. This is your responsibility, And God and nature will take care of everything else by law. And the greater vividness with which you can see it on the inside, the faster it comes into your reality on the outside. Most people have only a vague, fuzzy, unclear goal or idea of what they want, and as a result, what happens in their life is vague and fuzzy and unclear. Successful people have a crystal clear picture of what they want, and as a result, it comes into reality quite quickly. So we say here, as within, so without. And here are the three great principles. This is the great principle that underlies all thought for the last 6,000 years, that you become what you think about most of the time. You become what you think about most of the time. All causation is mental. This, again, is the great profound discovery that all causation is mental. Everything you see in the material world around you began with a thought in the mind of a person. And that thought turned into a goal, which turned into a plan, which began to take physical reality. In fact, just writing down a goal and making it concrete on paper is the beginning of this process. And so here's the most important principle of all, is you change your thinking and you change your life. You change your thinking and you change your life. And wonderfully enough, going right back to the law of control, the only thing over which you have complete control is your thinking. And if you can control your thinking, everything else will change for you. It's the hardest thing of all, yet the most important. And when you learn how to do it, as you will in our time together, your whole life will be completely different.